Okay, itinerary-wise, we're going to do a bit of an overview of Glassdoor and Indeed. I'm also going to touch on specifically why I think Glassdoor and Indeed, well, I'll demonstrate to you why Glassdoor and Indeed are even more important than they were now that we live in an AI world, and more candidates will search using ChatGPT and similar tools like that. And Glassdoor and Indeed are popping up all the time when people ask questions about your organization. So I'll do a few live ones of them. If anyone wants me to check out their organization as part of that, as the live one, and be a little bit brave, see what ChatGPT and Perplexity say about the organization, throw your company's name onto the chat, or maybe it's your past company, you want to throw that on there or whatever. I'd love an example. If you keep it live, then you know I'm not sort of just fixing it. I'd love to look at something different. We're going to look at then the more practical side of like, okay, once we've demonstrated why this is important, okay, how do you go about finding and claiming your organization's page if you haven't already done that? Updating your organization's page, and we'll be doing this across both Glassdoor and Indeed as we touch on each piece. They are similar, but also different. And we'll talk about how to get your jobs listed on there and also how to do things like social updates. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's a session next week, which we will touch on as well. There's a webinar next week, this time next week, that focuses on building a strategy around reviews. So how to get more reviews, how to get more positive reviews, how to manage replies to those reviews. That's next week's strategy, this time next week. I will share the link. Oh, here it is. I've got it here already. Look at this. So yeah, that's next week's strategy. You can sort of read what we're going to be doing there. I will post that onto the chat as well. If you've not signed up for that, then maybe just click and open it in your browser and you can sign up after this session. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to start by going live. Why, what's the real reason? I mean, you could argue that this isn't necessary. You've signed up to the webinar, but let's be honest, lots of people sign up to webinars and don't actually go ahead and take action the following week or later in that week. I want to inspire you to take action. And I'm also going to hopefully show you how it's not that time intensive to go and claim a page, update the page, and even build out a strategy, which is next week. None of these things are particularly time intensive, I don't think. But, first up, what happens? Let's even just Google. People can come along now, obviously, and we didn't have anyone volunteer their company name. So I'm going to just start, well, let me just ask ChatGPT. Give me a random, I'm just going to, why am I typing? Go voice. Give me a random UK company that's based maybe about 500 staff, big approximately. Not particularly well known, completely random, but they have to be a UK-based company. So there we go. Right, we'll get a completely random company. That'll be our sort of company to dig into. And they've given us Darwin Escapes, a leisure and hospitality organisation. Okay, based in Cheshire. Okay, so I can say into Google, what's it like to work at Darwin Escapes? Now that's really more of what I call an AI search. Those types of questions into Google don't really work so well, but Google can interpret some of them. It's done a reasonable job here. Look, Indeed and Glassdoor owning the first 3 spots. And then even the AI overview is pointing towards Indeed reviews. And then the 4th one down is still, and yet more Indeed. They completely own the front page almost, really. I don't think that type of search people put into Google necessarily. The typical Google search is about 3 to 4 words, whereas ChatGPT tends to be, or an AI search tends to be much longer. There's also AI mode over here on the left-hand side. Now, if you're in AI mode, I think there's a much greater chance you'll ask that type of question. So I think more and more people will do that. And then you start getting the summary. And if you look at where this summary, or the summarized information on the left is coming from these reviews on the right. Okay, so that's possible. And the other one that's possible is people just put in Darwin Escapes careers when they're looking to get a job there. And their careers page will probably come up first. But what comes up after that? Perhaps Indeed pops up and obviously showing jobs. And when you click on those jobs, it will no doubt show you the reviews. Let's just do that. And then obviously Glassdoor's popping up similarly with their jobs. But obviously both of those will probably highlight you. Look, there's Darwin Escape 42 reviews. So it's not far away from clicking on that. So you can sort of see how these pages become important, let's say in a non-AI world. So we can see this organization, unfortunately, doesn't have a fantastic score. And obviously you can come along and look at their jobs, but obviously you've got the reviews here as well and the scores. Okay, so you get the general idea. What I also wanted to show you, I think there's two types of searches people would do on ChatGPT. One is where they found the role. Maybe they've been approached by a role, maybe you've approached them, maybe they've just found your role on a job board or something similar, or maybe a friend or colleague works there, and then they might want to know more of what it's like to work there. Can you tell me some detailed information about what it's like to work at Darwin Escapes? I'm particularly interested in career development because I'm a younger person. Okay. Once again, that isn't the type of search you would put into Google. It's it's a proper AI question. And unless you're in AI mode on Google, it's going to struggle with that. But we know ChatGPT will do very well. So this is now viable, whereas previously researching companies like this was, viable, but actually time intensive. Now we can just have ChatGPT sort of summarize the information. And let's have a look at where it's getting that information from. Interestingly, it's getting the information from their own career site, their own website, which highlights having your own website is really important. CV Library's they've got a page on CV Library, and then they've got Zapier, which I've not heard of. Might be interested in looking at Zapier in a bit. And CV Library, Darwin Escapes. Okay, now we've got now we're after pros and cons. We're getting Indeed and we're getting Glassdoor pop up all the time. So that's certainly more relevant. So you sort of get the overall picture. That's what I'm talking about. So that's one type of search. Now, the other type of search that might come in is where someone might say, and this won't be for Darwin, might say, I'm based in Milton Keynes. I'm a recent IT graduate and I'm looking to work for a company, but I'm also a working parent. So I want to work sort of for a company that has good work-life balance. Can you show me local companies in Milton Keynes that would have good work-life balance? Now, I'm not saying that lots and lots of candidates use ChatGPT like this. I use it for voice, so my prompts are much more detailed, perhaps. But I think more and more candidates will be putting questions in, looking for jobs where they're saying, well, look, this is my situation. I'm looking to find this. And it will surface up companies. So once again, we're seeing Glassdoor rated here because work-life balance is one of the criteria on Glassdoor. So yeah, so in this case, it's actually now recommending companies because they have good work-life balance. Okay. So hopefully that gives you the synopsis. Like I say, you likely already knew that this was important because you've signed up for this webinar, but you can sort of see how it's even more important. I need to look at Zapier as well a bit later on. I'll touch on that. It looks like it's, yeah, Zapier looks like it's very similar to Glassdoor. I'm also doing my own version. I'm also updating our own page for hireful on a service called Comparably, which is definitely more prominent than Zapier. And I've seen both of these sites now start appearing in ChatGPT. So I would recommend probably claiming these pages perhaps as well if you've got time. It's a similar process we're going to do today. Go in, claim your page, and then make sure it's up to date, make sure it positions you correctly as an organization, because it's another source that likes of ChatGPT, Google, AI tools like Perplexity could also be using to form opinions and feedback to organizations about. Okay, so we've had our first question, which is anonymous. If you ask a question on there, it will come up as anonymous in the question bit. So if you want to add your name to it, please do. Otherwise, I won't be able to refer back to you. Someone has said, I tried previously to set up our company on Glassdoor, but it's either been denied or we haven't heard anything back. Do you have any advice on this? So I'm assuming you don't have a company page whatsoever. So I would definitely try and set up a company page. I haven't done that in a while. But I would also go out to Glassdoor, tag, and post onto your thing saying, "Hey, Glassdoor, I'd love to set up a page." Do a post on Glassdoor. So I would go via the normal support channels first and foremost, which you will find. I will show you them a bit later on. Go via the normal support channels, and I would do that if you've got a page and you can't claim it, which we'll talk about, or if you want to set up a page but you haven't heard anything back from, go via those support channels. If you don't get anything back from support, because they are quite a lean organization, Glassdoor, I would then look to sort of start messaging or no, do a post on LinkedIn and tag them in it and say, can someone get back to me? I'm trying to do this. I'd really like to have a Glassdoor page. And then maybe even tag them on, message them on Twitter and do things like that. And eventually I would imagine you would start annoying them to the point where you become, because I guess the reason I haven't got back to you is they're just overly busy. So if you can raise yourself and make yourself a bit more of a bit more of a bee in their bum, then hopefully they'll get back to you. That's all I can suggest, apart from messaging people, connecting to people on Glassdoor, on LinkedIn who work at Glassdoor, and messaging them to see if they can help you with that challenge. But yeah, just try hard. You can also directly message. Let me show you this. I don't know if you can actually do this. Depends if you've got it turned on, but let's go. You can directly message on LinkedIn the company page, which is another option. Also, if you message onto the bottom of one of their posts on, they've posted on Glassdoor about being a great company, you could message under the bottom of that as a comment and go, "Look, I've been trying to do this, but no one comes back to me. Is there any chance someone could get back to me?" And you start really annoying their social media posts a little bit, not trying to be too harsh, then hopefully they would react to that and come back to you. But I wouldn't go too extreme too quickly. So you can go to Glassdoor's page and you can see you can message them as a company. It's another option there. That'll be normally controlled by marketing. They might be less inundated than the support team, perhaps, but I don't know that as a fact. But like I said, the other thing you could do is when they do a post, you could say, try and find something about having a careers page or something, or yeah. So I would try and find something and then post under that, perhaps. This is good. My ex-recruiter is not interested in talking to me. It's like, well, I'm also interested in talking to someone at Glassdoor, but no one's interested in talking to me. Okay, but I will show you in Glassdoor. I'm getting a bit distracted, but it's a good question. Let me just show you. I want to do I'm going to show you some Glassdoor, but quickly I'm going to touch on this, which is the communities area of Glassdoor. I'm going to touch on it and say I wouldn't really worry about it. They've created with a community, and we've just closed down our sub 1000 community, and hence the roundtable piece. We're trying to do these micro communities. Communities are very hard to get engagement on, either work or don't work. It's really sort of all in one go. But if I show you here, this is Glassdoor's homepage, and they lead with community. And what they really love is more and more candidates coming back to here, talking amongst themselves, sharing updates, and doing stuff, but they've really struggled to do that. You're welcome to check it out. There are various bowls. You might find a bowl for your area. You might find a bowl for, like, if you're based in New York City. I don't think you would be, but you can click on there and you can see there are sometimes hundreds of thousands of people there, but a lot of the bowls are there's no one there and there's not a lot of conversation going on. It is my experience. So I wouldn't worry too much about that area. But yeah, what we are interested in is the company's page and how that all lists out. So let me just go back to my notes here. So communities, yeah, not a lot happening, particularly in the UK or London. You look at these types of things, and when you click into them, you'll see there's not much conversation going on in them. Okay, so let's help my friend who asked about setting up a page, finding and claiming a page. I'll also show you about setting up a page as well. Okay, so first up, is there a listing for you? That's the first thing you can check. You can go on and you can do a search. So up you come onto here. You can just search for a company, and I can search for anything. There's my lovely Arsenal Football Club. Up it pops, and we can see there is a listing for it. We can click into it. It has a little thing to check I'm an actual human being. Hopefully, there it goes. It takes a second to fire up. I might have to tick a box. It's all going very slowly. Come on, Glassdoor. And there we go. Now, it's not so easy sort of to see. It says work here, claim your free employer profile. I've got some slides as well in here that says, it's quite hard to see whether a company has actually claimed their profile. I don't. They used to make it more obvious. I don't think it's that obvious anymore. Although it's encouraging people at Arsenal to claim that profile, I don't necessarily know that they haven't claimed it because, for example, if you go in and read the reviews, in order to reply to reviews, once it stops this silly protection bit, in order to be able to reply to a review, you have to have claimed the page. So the only way I can definitively say someone has at some point claimed this page is if they've been replying to reviews. Yeah, but even if they haven't replied to reviews, doesn't mean they haven't claimed the page, if that makes sense. Wow, this is really slow or not working whatsoever. Okay, so I could go along and look at the reviews and I could see, and you can sort of see here, there's no real replies to these reviews. So I can't be sure whether they've claimed that page or not. Now, this used to determine an unclaimed profile, but I'm going to change my advice to you now today. I don't think it's obvious that it is because I've seen examples whereby, like I say, I know they have claimed the profile. It still says that there. You also got paid customers. When you look at an enhanced profile, you'll see that quite often there's a video at the top. There's lots more media in it. Now, they have paid Glassdoor to enhance their profile. They've signed up with Glassdoor. I'm not here to sell that process. My long and short of that would be, you might ask me, oh, how much does that cost, Adrian? I would say thousands. How many thousands? I'd say I don't know. Depends on the size of company and the salesperson you're talking to on that given day. There's no clear, but for an organization that's very much about transparency and sharing knowledge and reviews, they're not very transparent about their pricing, that's for sure. So I would say that whether it's worthwhile, in my mind, is typically determined by the sheer amount of traffic your page is getting. If your page is getting a lot of traffic, you probably want to be able to, and I'll show you how to check that out. You definitely want to be able to, if there's a reasonable price, update it with some great enhanced content. Okay, now over on Indeed, you might see claim this page. So let me just show you over on Indeed. We'll drag Indeed into here. This is hireful. You won't see claim this page on hireful because we've already claimed the page. So yeah, there we go. Now, let me just click across to Indeed. If I go to their company reviews, let me put in Darwin Escapes again as our random company. There we are, there they come up. Like I say, don't know, no, I didn't mean to click on that, sorry. I don't know Darwin Escapes don't know them very well, so let's just see what happens when we find them. 115 reviews. And to the best of my knowledge, yeah, I think that page has been claimed, but it's quite hard to tell. So if I worked at Darwin Escapes and I asked around our HR and maybe the marketing team, they might have joined it, but normally the HR recruitment team, and no one had any idea whether, we've claimed the page, we haven't claimed the page, then I would go and I would try and claim this page. So, I would go in and on Glassdoor, it's easy. You saw that option there. Let me just go remove the Glassdoor piece. Right, let me show you. On Indeed, it's not so easy. You will go along and you'll have to hit their support area, I suspect. You go down to help. You have to be signed up with an employer account, which is free to do. You'll fill in your information, and then you can go through and you can contact support. Typically, what you'd normally find is like they'll expect you to do some sort of automated check, say claim page or something. You just type in claim. And then actually you can come along and fill in some information and submit it, and you say they'll respond to most messages in 24 hours. Okay, so that's how you would claim it over on Indeed if you haven't got an Indeed page, or you have got an Indeed page but you're not sure who's owning it. Move that out of the way for now. I'm going to come back to that later. Got too many of these pages open now. Let's that one down as well. And then over on Glassdoor, once again, if you're not sure, you can get started with your free employer profile and obviously try and claim that page. So once you're signed in on your employer profile, then go to the overview page. You should be able to claim your free, yeah. work here, claim your free employer profile. So if you clicked on that, it's probably going to remember who you are. So you'd fill out the details and you'd be able to say, hey, look, I work here at Arsenal. Can you claim the page? So you'd fill out the details, and I should have left it on the screen, but it's gone now. But you would fill out details and go from there. I'd imagine most of you have done that. That's not a challenge for most of you. If I couldn't find my company, like I said, I would go through support. I presume there's no simple way of adding a company on here. So if I search for a company like ABC Kinetic or something silly name I just made up, hopefully there's not one of them. Yeah, it won't show me that. No, it will just give me nothing. Okay. So yeah, for my colleague who asked the question there, I would just go through support, which I will show you how to do. Because once you're signed in as an employer, then you can come along here and go to the Employer Center. Scroll down. Sorry, it's annoyingly. Let me just try that again. Right, down here. Go away. Click on here, and then you can go to the Employer Center. You might want to bookmark that page. And this is where we're going to spend a bit of time today, in the Employer Center, playing around with things. But like I say, if you sign up for an account, that would be the easiest way. And then you can come in here and you can ask some questions. So I think it's probably over in settings, is it? Nope. Just move this around. If we've got a help guide, we would have help here somewhere. What have we got here? Viewers, job seeker, info. There we go. Employer help center. Here we go. We've got live chat and contact support. So I've not seen live chat before here. That's interesting. I don't know how good that would be, but I haven't got time to go through them live today, if you pardon the pun. But if you guys want to check that out, once you're signed in, you can contact support, go to live chat, and go from there. I have not really ever heard of anyone struggling to claim their page. As long as you go in with a company work email address, if I tried to claim Arsenal Football Club, then obviously there will be protections in place for that. So they'll want to make sure that I work at Arsenal. So I've got an Arsenal email address that I can verify, that type of thing. Maybe they'll look up my LinkedIn profile or something. There might be some AI check that just looks up my LinkedIn profile and makes sure that I work in a role relevant to claiming that page. I don't know what their exact policy is, but I've done Glassdoor training for probably 10, 12 years and not really come across anyone who's not been able to claim a page. So you should be okay. And feel free to let me know if you're struggling still, because I can always come back to that. Okay, so there's your idea, unclaimed profile. There's an example claimed profile on Indeed. This is one for EE. You can sort of see with a claimed profile on Indeed, you can put more videos and content on it. You can sort of see that. Okay, so updating your Indeed company page, I'm going to cover this nice and quickly. There's not a lot you can do. There used to be a lot you could do, and now they're charging you for it as well. I've obviously wrote there on the page as well. Now they're charging you for it, which is perfectly fine. That's their remit. But they've got their employer branding hub. Now we've gone in, luckily for us, and we've updated lots of our content previously. So we're okay for that access. But largely for you guys, that's what you're going to be faced with updating, that section there. There's one other caveat. You can do social updates. I'm going to show you that at the end. But largely, that's what you're going to be updating there. Let me go in and show you, and we can just tick that one off so we know how to update your Indeed page. So once you come along here, I am signed in, I believe. So why join us? You should be able to edit this. Am I going mad? Where's the edit mode? Hold on, let's just see. So I've got to move this out of the way, and then let me just see. This shouldn't take me too long once it plays nicely with me. Company settings, let's see now. Yeah, and I've got our employer account. I can come along here and fill it out. Where has it gone? Organization. Here we go. Yeah, so this is all, actually, I don't think I'm logged in on the organization, but it is actually, I'm logged in on another account. But apologies for that, guys, but you'll be able to see that this is where all the details are. You just got to come along into this area here and you're filling it all out. There's not too much you can actually fill out realistically here. So wouldn't, once again, not too much of a conversation to be had around that. I am going to cover off, we're going to go through it live on the Glassdoor side, and we'll cover off some of these things, because there are decisions you need to make about some of this information, particularly around things like website link and stuff like that, which I'll talk about, and this little bio here, which is quite important as well. So let's go in and look at Glassdoor. One of the things you might want to do before you get into this, when you're thinking, I'm going to write a little bio section for our organization, maybe ChatGPT will help me with that, perhaps, who knows. But one of the things you might want to do is go in and have a look at your competitors, similar organizations, read about how they're positioning themselves. That can be quite useful for you. So yeah, definitely we'll check that out. But let's go find our friend Glassdoor here. So I can open up Glassdoor and I can come along here and I can say, US Job Seeker as well. So I could come along here and look at other companies that I, consider competitors or that we look up to. For example, HubSpot, I think, is an amazing company. They're definitely not a competitor to us, but they're an amazing software company. I could come along here and their brand, all the way they position themselves always seems excellent. So I could come along here and I could read about their mission and how they, think about that, how they're positioning themselves. Interestingly, look at the banner image here. They're not a paid for page. They've got, even though they're a huge company worth revenues of 2 to 5 billion, they're not paying for their Glassdoor page. Okay, so the key bit here, as you can sort of read from this first section, if I zoom in a little bit on this now, is organizations are talking to candidates. This is not a case where you can simply cut and paste your About Us section of your website, which is probably written for your customers, perhaps, and drop it in here. You've got to make your pitch about why you're a great employer. You can sort of see how HubSpot are doing this. I haven't actually been on this page before, but I kind of, off the top of my head, thought that these guys would be pretty good. They're obviously promoting massively their hybrid workplace. 72% of our employees are at home, fully remote, 21% are flex, and 7% choose to work from an office. So yeah, that's really out front, really clear, evidence-based as well, which is really important as well. Okay, so let's come along here. Let's have a look at our employer profile, and I'll show you where you update these sections, and we'll just go through it step by step. If you've already claimed your page, then this might be something you want to update. In fact, probably time for us to throw out a quick poll and just see how many of you have actually done this. How many of you actually claimed your page, not claimed your page? Let's do a quick poll. And there's 2 questions there. Just understand, where are you with Glassdoor? And then where are you with your Indeed company page? Let's see. And I'll share the results. So you just got to choose the one that's most relevant for you. Interesting. Okay, that would be what I'm getting the answers I would somewhat expect a little bit. I'm going to count down sort of 5 seconds in my head then, guys. So sort of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for voting on that. And we share the results. So, obviously, Glassdoor is probably more prominent as a brand, I think, in the employer brand space. Indeed is probably better known as a job board or a job board aggregator. So you can certainly see that more people have actually got their Glassdoor page in place or feel like they know what they're doing, but 30% are not sure. Some have a page but not claimed it, so about half of you, and then a few people at the end of the page and update the content. So some of you guys maybe you might just be looking to refresh that content, and then it's the similar pattern over on people using their Indeed company page, but certainly less engagement, less attention on that. So and what I would definitely say is, realistically, you can do both. You should be doing both at the same time, because it's the same sort of process as you'll see here. So, update this, you've got your information here. You've got information about who's the company. Let me just go through this actually, sorry. So you've got the company details here. Let's just click on this. So this is our company description. We've got it in here in the bottom there. To be honest, it probably needs a little bit of tidying up. It's been a while since we've done much on that. probably worth having a look at some other companies we look up to, like the HubSpot example. What could we do to bring that through? Company mission, well, don't try and just make that up. Your organization, your marketing team, if you have a mission, will have a very clear one, and you'll need to put it in word for word perfect. I'm sure you guys would recognize that. Other information here, we've got photos. Photos are really important. I think that's one of the main areas people will go on Glassdoor. It's like, yeah, I want to have a look. Now, you'll see things like this all the time. Showcase with a cover photo. Sounds exciting. Exclusive feature, and then it says contact sales. So I'm sure you could work out that that's going to be a paid for feature. If you start clicking on lots of these things, the sales team might make more of an interest and contact you. But yeah, I've uploaded a bunch. We've uploaded a bunch of company photos. I'll touch on some of these. Can we actually click into them here? I'm not sure if we can. Reorder. Done. No. Okay, so you can order them around. The most important ones at the top. Once again, this is probably a little bit dated for us, but it's okay. And not everything you'll see. We've got some images on here, a bit like the social media posts we might put out, and we can put them in as photos. As people click for our photos, they'll get certain key messages like results from our employee engagement stuff, how proud our staff to work here and things like that. So we can put nice messages in there as well. So photos we'll talk about in a bit, but I'll show you some examples. You've got awards. You can put down your awards, any awards that you've won, those types of things as well. We'll talk about social media and video. That's going to be mostly paid for, and for in this case, yeah, that's sort of showing you the other pieces. So it's just a matter of going through these areas. I don't think there's anything else on company story. I'll have a talk about diversity and inclusion next. Let's see what this loads in. I don't think there's anything too much on here. I think we've covered it. Yeah, we have for as much. And then diversity inclusion, which is important. This was an update they put out around the time of around about 2020, yeah, election, sort of the George Floyd type area, particularly obviously they're largely an American company. So more and more organizations were tuning into diversity, equity, inclusion, about time too for most of us. But yeah, you can put on your initiatives. We put some information there about our review, and then I'll be a link to the page on our career site where we talk about diversity and inclusion. You can actually put down your goals and other things like that as well. But that would definitely be something I would encourage. Competitor targeting, you're not going to want to do that necessarily. That's a paid for feature. It just basically says, if you're a paid for account, then when people look at, if HubSpot were a competitor to us, which they're not, then we could sit on their page. So when people look at HubSpot page, they could see us. We would sit there as an alternative employer. So that's just the paid for feature. And then you've got other details here about benefits, where you're ticking through the benefits, explaining the benefits, confirming the benefits you offer, that sort of thing. And then you're also, you've got a section on work from home, which I don't think we've filled out. I know we have actually from 2022. All on-site employees are allowed to work from home at least 2 days a week, which is true. So there we go. Actually 2 to 3 days a week really, but it's at least 2 is still technically the policy. So yeah, that's good. You can put, remote initiatives here as well, anything else that's going on. You can sort of see how this is important, particularly if we look at that search I did at the start where I said I'm looking for companies that have good work-life balance. I could have said I want to find companies in this sector that allow me to work from home. Well, if Glassdoor's getting organizations to organize and categorize themselves all correctly, then Glassdoor could be a very strong indicator that that you offer work from home. It's not just one job listing, it's an actual policy that someone at the company has confirmed, and obviously it maybe has a date next to it as well, so you can see when that happened. Depends how much they make this available to AI as a rule, but I think Glassdoor does open itself up to AI pretty well, but not completely. So you do tend to find, they get referenced quite a lot, as we saw at the start. Okay, I'm waffling a bit now, so I think that gives you just a bit of an idea. It's just a matter of going through that. I would also say that just because, this has all been filled out doesn't mean it's all accurate. HubSpot might have more than 13 locations. The year founded could be wrong. The sector is definitely not computer hardware development. They're a computer software company. It's a good example. This is wrong. So check yours out. do not take all of these categorizations as accurate. They can be wrong. I mean, how they've got this wrong, I don't know, because that's pretty straightforward in regards to the categorization for what they do as a business. I don't understand that. I presume like Microsoft, if I click on Microsoft, would be accurate. So, well, Microsoft is computer hardware development. Well, maybe there isn't an option for software, but that's a bit bizarre. Okay, fine. You get the general idea. You can see Microsoft has won some best places to work awards under Glassdoor. If you're interested in winning the best place to work on Glassdoor, you can't be nominated, you can't be considered unless you've got over 1,000 staff. So that whole awards thing, not being rude about it, but it's just for organizations above 1,000 staff. So if you want to know why, well, think about what Glassdoor's main customer base is. It's companies above 1,000 staff. So that's why they set the awards up, if you ask me. So we've done a bit of the Employer Centre. This just walks through what I've explained. Check the company details, add, your little logo. You get this little square little logo. You don't get to add a big company header logo. Add your description, mission statement, add photos. Normally, these photos can often come from your social media pages. If you've got a strategy where you're sharing out content, showing what your staff are up to, what goes on inside the office, then that's a great source. And I would probably set up a reminder every 3 months to go in and capture some images and pass them across. Add your benefits, we touched on that. Yeah, that's fine. And diversity programs. This is just putting it in the notes so you see it all here, guys. Right, so let's look at some Glassdoor analytics. That's what I was going to do next. So this is definitely important if you're going to be thinking about, that's the wrong page. Let me get rid of that now. Actually, I might leave that. We'll come back to here. This is going to be important if you're thinking about, do I want to upgrade my page? You've got the analytics here. You can come along and you can see how many people are landing on your page. And we're not a very large organization. We're not really recruiting that heavily at the moment as well. So you can see the general scores, which are pretty good. We're happy with them. You can see brand impressions. Yeah, so normally I would be more focused on something like page views. So brand impressions, I don't know. There might just be any time that I've listed on a page, hireful's been listed in a page somewhere. I don't know how much value I'd place on that. Page views. And what you'd normally find if this was like your website, your marketing staff might be more focused on unique visitors, the number of individual people who come to your website. And that would probably be the bit that interests me. But by looking at page views, as each individual might click on several pages, several reviews, it suggests, that maybe there isn't a huge amount of people coming to this page. There is some. So yeah, you get an idea. But if I'm honest, I think what Glassdoor tries to do with this page is give you real numbers. I'm not denying that. They're giving you real numbers, but maybe give you the numbers that make it look like there's more activity. And you've got to make your own decision based on, is there enough activity that makes it, there's a lot of people coming to this page and checking us out and knowing more about us. And maybe we want to upgrade and have greater potential to control and influence what they're seeing when they land on our page. Okay, you can sort of see how this all checks out. You can't go into loads of detail. You will get more data, I'm pretty sure. I haven't had a sales demo from Glassdoor, in the last couple of years, but you'll get more demo, I think, in regards to reviews. Sorry, in regards to analytics, if you're a paid for customer, I suspect. But we can go in. Let me have a look at rating trends. Let me see what it shows. Yeah, look, exclusive feature. You can see more historical data if you upgrade. But we can certainly click through these and you can sort of see how it looks. Some people might want to screenshot this and put it in their company, their recruitment report every 6 months, 12 months, however frequent you think that changes. You can sort of see other volume trends. Interestingly, because Glassdoor is owned by the same company that owns Indeed, you can actually see your Indeed analytics in the same area if you've linked the account, which we haven't linked, which we should have done really. So if you link the accounts, you just come to one place to look at all your analytics, which is useful. Okay, I'm not going to go too far on that. There's analytics you can go and explore. but it's not too much necessary. Now, one thing that I think is interesting, Indeed's got a work well-being survey. So you'll see this, it pops up quite prominently. So let's go back to our friend Indeed. I knew there was a reason I didn't want to close that down just yet. I'm going to come back a few steps. Now, this will only work if you're a big enough organization. So if I come along here to like Currys, as long as I think it's something like a handful of, maybe 12 people have reviewed you. They've got 2,000 responses to Indeed's workplace wellbeing survey that worked at Currys. And you get this workplace wellbeing survey. So that's worth paying attention to. So if you're a large organization, we haven't gained enough reviews whereby, because obviously when someone puts a review in, they say to them, would you like to do a work wellbeing survey, and encourage that, but there's no guarantee for that. So eventually many companies will have that, but we haven't because we haven't got enough. So you'll see it's not listed here, but it is listed at the front over here on Currys. So check that out yourself. That might be something you want to get some insights from. It tells you what's going well, what's not going so well. You can't really control it, but it is good information. There's a few guides here as well in my notes around playbooks and how to manage it, and some insight reports from Indeed and things like this, okay? And you'll see that this one here is the lowest I found. It's based on, once you get over 10 responses, then you will have this start to appear. So even some slightly not very large organizations can have this work well-being appear on their profile. Okay, so adding jobs to your page as well. There's no point putting all this together, putting the effort in. It's another good place to ensure your jobs are appearing. So, getting your jobs listed, couple of obvious ways. Most of the time, you'll see like most ATSs, like including ours, like Glassdoor and Indeed, we post out to, customers can choose to post to them. It's quite straightforward, it's free. If you don't have an ATS, you can contact Glassdoor support and say, here's where our jobs are listed. They're listed on this page. We post them there manually. Could you scrape them? And they might scrape them and have them appear on your page. On Indeed, you can manually post your jobs. You can go and fill out the form every time you have a job and it'll associate it to your company, but that's obviously a bit of a manual task, a bit of a pain. So those are the options in regards to getting your jobs. But I also wanted to touch on social updates. So I've got a webinar around this. If anyone's interested in how to build out a sort of whole social recruiting strategy, we've got, I think, about 3 webinars actually now, looking at different aspects of it. One of them by my colleague who works in marketing, is a bit of a social guru. But yeah, we've got several webinars that show you how to build out this strategy. And I'm a huge fan of this strategy. I won't get into it now, but I think it really, really works for your employer brand. But you could also post out updates to Glassdoor with images, and Indeed now, which I'm going to show you as well. So the problem is, as I see it, you have to do it manually. Like most of the social media tools we use allow us to sort of put a post up on LinkedIn and then also on Facebook and Instagram, and you can write it out once, put the image up and just disseminate it across all of them. Glassdoor doesn't really work. There's only one tool that allows you to do that, which is HubSpot, from what we've seen. Hootsuite, which is a paid-for tool. So there's no other real tools that allow you to do that. So you're going to have to go to Glassdoor. I will show you how to do it now if you decide you want to do this. So let me go and find mine. Okay, so you have got on here reviews, employer profiles, employer tools. It's probably over here, employer profile. Social media and video. I don't think that's what we're looking for, but let's just skip. Company updates. I think that will be it. Company updates. Yeah. So you select the profile you want to post it to, post our UK one. Add a category to it, careers, whatever, COVID-19, a bit old, isn't it? And you can enter your message, you can add an image into it, and away you go. And you can sort of see, we haven't done this in 5 years, because I'll explain why in a second, but you can sort of see how it then appears. We did it when we launched our careers site. We did it during COVID, mental health awareness week. So yeah. So why haven't we done it more? Well, we have a strategy and it involves posting out content, but it's, as I said, it's a pain for our team to come all the way out, go here, and it's a bit finicky. So it's not easy to do. we're not recruiting. We normally like to not use this excuse at hireful. We normally like really push the boat out. We've got a really nice career site, even though we're only about 50 staff big. We recruited 2-3 positions in the last 12 months, but it's not, we're not expanding massively at the moment. So it doesn't really warrant us coming in and doing this. You'll have to make the decision for yourself if it does for you. The benefit I see is when you go to look at a page like, let's go back to our friend HubSpot, because that was definitely not claimed. Don't think the Microsoft one is either. When you come along to a page like this, and you can see now there are photos further along here. You can click and see the photos. But when you get to that home page, it's a nice way of putting more posts on, putting some more. Look, they've done some good 5 days ago, so you can sort of see that it's a nice way to put some more content onto that page. They used to, the sort of thing almost you'd think you'd be charged for, perhaps. So it's one of those things. If you've got enough, if you're recruiting enough people come to your page, then I would definitely encourage you to put out your news, because I think what this does is this provides the evidence. Yeah. You might have some great reviews, yeah. You might have some brilliant benefits and everything else, some nice photos, and then people are saying, well, this provides the evidence showing how you get those reviews. Oh, look, here's us training all of our staff. Here's us looking after all of our staff. Here's us doing an announcement about this person who's just been promoted, and it shows career development. So all of that provides the evidence that explains why you have a really good score, really good reviews, that side of things. And it also pulls the curtain back a bit and shows what's going on inside your organization. So, I recommend doing that if you have enough attention on your page and you've got the time. That just comes down to you. Also, it sort of depends on whether you're doing a social recruiting strategy anyway. Because if you're putting this content over on LinkedIn and you're putting it on a Facebook, a sort of Life at HubSpot page, then it makes sense that you also put it on Glassdoor, because you've already got the content done, haven't you? So that's really the factor. It's all about, unfortunately, input, output. Okay, so post updates to Glassdoor. You can post updates to Indeed. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because remember I said Indeed is really locked down. So I'm going to come back to my friend Indeed. Here's Indeed. So Indeed is really locked down. There's a limit on what you can do. But if you do a social update, then it actually appears on the Why Join Us page. So here's Why Join Us. We've got this basics on here that we can put. We can't put images on there, unfortunately. We've just got a little logo at the top there. But if we want to put images on here, we can do news updates. So I just did this one literally to test out how it would work about one of our staff having a volunteering day. And you can see it posts out there quite nicely. So I think that's another good strategy, particularly I find even more so with Indeed, because you're quite limited on what you can update on Indeed. So once again, if I was doing it on Glassdoor and I was doing it on Facebook and Indeed, we're like, yeah, let's also put it on Indeed. Why would you not? Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea. Let me know if you've got any questions about social posts. This shows you how to do it. When you come into the Employer Tools area, you post updates and you fill out details. Pretty straightforward. And voila, that's how it looks. A key thing as well, let me show you this update, is signing up for alerts. Because once you've signed up to claim your page, then am I in the back end here? No, I'm not. Let me just go from too many profiles up here. Right, okay. So once you've signed up to claim your page, you can go across the settings and you can set alerts. So whenever someone posts a review, then you get an email with that, which is great. Because someone posted like a particularly negative review, you can sort of see all these alerts here. So you can see what information you want, set your preferences. But if someone posted a really terrible negative review saying they were sexually harassed or something like that, maybe you as the HR person would want to know about that review before someone else brought it to your attention. So always good to have the alerts set up so you get a daily notification if there's been activity on your page, which you can sort of see I'm doing there. You can change that from, but I'm getting it for anything essentially. So definitely recommend that. And that brings us up to just a reminder about next week's webinar. We're at the takeaways part pretty much now, guys. So I'm just going to wrap up and see if there's any other questions before we highlight next week's webinar. But first and foremost, let's claim the page. That'll be one of the key tasks today. If you claim the page, then you're going to want to obviously update that content. Make sure it's accurate, it's up to the minute. And that's that sort of, to a degree, a little bit one and done. You've put your description on there. You might need to change it in a couple of years or something if it's got out of date. Mission statement goes on, size of company, that's all, that's pretty much done. You can sort of set it and forget it for maybe a year. But also, I think there is a strategy here about the overall review strategy, which we'll talk about. I'll give you a heads up for what's happening next week if that's a webinar you want to tackle straight away. You're welcome to sign up for that. But obviously, having all these people post reviews, it just seems sensible to come along. Let me just click on Darwin's reviews here. We're on their reviews, fine. Seems sensible to come along and reply to the reviews. So, they've got a good review at the top here. And then they've got one saying, nah, not the best, not the worst, good company, but none of these reviews are replied to. Now, particularly if you get like a negative review, something that's like abysmal customer service, yeah, fine. You get an abysmal review like that, let's say, I think it would make sense to reply back to it. I can show you how to reply back to it. I can show you how ChatGPT can help you to reply back to it, and I'll show you some ideas on that. That's what we're going to do next week. Particularly like if I took over this organization, they've got 142 reviews, and I've got to reply to all of them, which I genuinely think would be a good idea. Even if some of them are 5 years old, I'd want to reply to all of them, because any one of them could come back on a search and someone could be looking at, and you'd want to maybe position your case there, even if it's just to say, look, I'm sorry this person had a difficult, their experience with us wasn't the best. We try very hard in these areas to improve these things, and we're working hard and we feel like we are improving these things. So you get to make your case, but it's not like an ongoing forum. You get the last word. So that's really key on this as well. So there's lots of positives around why I would encourage you to actually have a review strategy where you're replying to those reviews. But beyond that as well, what we'll be showing next week is how to gather a review strategy whereby you can gather more positive reviews and have it completely systemized, whereby, whether it's at exit interviews or when people are promoted, there's very little touch points where you ask them nicely whether they'd be okay giving you a Glassdoor or an Indeed review and going from there. So lots of ways that we can help you to improve the way you're responding to reviews and how you're positioning yourself, but also hopefully I say hopefully, I think in almost all cases with a strategy, you can improve that score. Yeah, because most people that respond are not always, but a bit negative. There's a slight negativity bias on this. So I think actually if you can go out and source some more positive people, and I'll show you some strategies around that next week, then I think that sort of levels the playing ground a bit and maybe hopefully makes a fairer representation of what your organization is like to work for. And the last point I'd say on that, if you're not doing that, bet your bottom dollar, because I've run this webinar for 12 years, plenty of other organizations and other competitors to you likely are having a similar strategy on Glassdoor where they are, got a strategy to help them boost the number of reviews, but also the number of positive reviews as well. So that's what next week's all about. Yeah, and we're pretty much finished, guys, 10:56. So I'm going to hold off a second and see whether I get any other questions. But if I don't, what I would say is, if you're leaving the webinar, I'd love your feedback. Just rate the webinar from 1 to 10. If you want to post a comment on there, that's great. We definitely read those comments. A couple of people got their hands raised. Not sure if you want to just post a comment. I'm not sure if that's accidental or not. But if you've got a question, raise it. You've also got my contact details here as well. If you prefer, if you get into this in the next coming days and something's popped up, drop me a message. I'm more than happy to help. That's the clues in the company name. My job title here is Chief Helper, so I'm very happy to help you. But don't see any questions, so we will leave it there. Thank you for your time and attention today, and hopefully I'll see some of you next week. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Bye.